The world of Thylea. Thalia is located across a great expanse of ocean, far beyond the borders of the known world. It is a land of great beauty and ancient splendor, untouched and unspoiled by civilization since the dawn of time. Thalia is sometimes called the Lost Land. It has a large central landmass, which tapers into peninsulas surrounded by hundreds of islands. Beyond that, on all sides, a clear expanse of ocean called the Forgotten Sea stretches for 1,000 miles in every direction. Sprawling ruins, glittering lagoons, and massive statues dot Thylea's landscape. Great beasts wander her plains, and fey creatures haunt her woods. Centaur tribes war for control on the steppes, and reptilian savages battle across her islands. Although Thalia is a land with a long history, most of it has been lost. At the heart of the archipelago, the Mother Goddess, in the form of a colossal world tree, watches over her creation. She is also called Thalia, and her true name is lost to time. Her children are Sidon and Lutheria, the twin titans, who dwell in the far reaches of the ocean. They are the masters of everything under the endless expanse of the sky. The history of Thalia, a rival of mortals. In the centuries before the founding of Myrtos, mortals had no dominion over the untamed lands of Thalia. When elves, dwarves, and humans washed upon Thalia's shores, their weapons failed them, and their magic ceased to work. They were forsaken by their gods, forced to live as beggars among the fey races. Curious about these strange refugees, the nymphs and satyrs offered them hospitality, and many small settlements were founded. The centaurs, however, offered them no quarter, and the cyclops were known to devour men whole. Life in Thalia was short and brutal for the so-called trespassers from foreign lands. During this era, the twin titans wielded great power, unlike anything seen since the dawn of time. Sidon was venerated as the Lord of Storms. He could conjure apocalyptic storms with his right hand and cataclysmic earthquakes with his left hand. His sister wife Lutheria held dominion over the land of dreams, and her voice was said to give life to the dead. Fearing eradication, the desperate mortal settlers built shrines to Sidon and held feasts in Lutheria's honor. Thousands of sacrifices were dedicated to the Lord of Storms, and libations of wine were poured to the Lady of Dreams at every meal. The twins were at first unswayed, but over time they warmed to the persistent worship of the hapless settlers. In exchange for this devotion, the Titans offered the mortals oaths of protection, which shielded them from the worst ravages of the centaurs and cyclops. The settlement survived, but they were always at the mercy of the twins. So it remained for many hundreds of years. Arrival of the Dragonlords. One fateful day, a flight of powerful bronze dragons arrived on Thalia's shores, each bearing a great champion from the old world. These were the legendary warriors, known as the Dragonlords, and they heralded an upheaval that would forever change the history of the Lost Land. Within just a few years of their arrival, the city of Myrtos was founded, and a half-dozen small kingdoms sprang up along the roads of the western reaches. The Dragonlords founded their own dynasties, and everywhere the worship of the twins and native gods was abandoned. The Dragonlords were symbols of hope for a beleaguered people. Whenever any mortal settlement was razed to the ground by roving centaurs and cyclops, the Dragonlords would repay the attackers in kind. Through harsh winters, blistering summers, and relentless assaults by the native races, the Dragonlords fought tirelessly, and the people of Myrtos preserved. Everywhere the dragons were greeted with shouts of adulation. When spotted flying overhead, they would be hailed as saviors, and great songs and feasts would be held in their honor. They were radiant to behold, bronze scales gleaming like fire. To be visited by one of the dragons was to be blessed. But the great powers that ruled Thalia grew jealous. Sidon and Lutheria, the twin titans, immortal children of the mother goddess, amassed great armies to eradicate the city of Myrtos. The Dragonlords responded by gathering all the mortals in Thalia into a united assault on the native races, and so began the First War. The histories of the First War are vague, having been passed down through the centuries in the form of decaying scrolls and tapestries. What is known for certain is that the native races were driven into exile. The centaurs retreated into the steppes, while the satyrs fled into the forests. The Gigans, an ancient civilization of Cyclops, were annihilated, leaving behind the crumbling ruins of their fallen cities. The cost of victory was great. By the time the war ended, the last of the dragons had been killed, defending the city they loved most. Although the Dragonlords are remembered as the great heroes of this age, their noble dragons came to be equally venerated as guardian spirits. The blood of their sacrifice is woven into the stones of Myrtos, and to this day the city is said to glow radiant bronze at sunset. Perhaps most miraculous of all, however, was the appearance of the 5 gods. These immortal figures descended from heaven when the tide had turned against the Dragonlords. Some have claimed that they were manifestations of Thylia's own desire to protect her immigrant children. They took the form of mortal men and women, but their eyes were alight with the fire of divinity. Each of these new gods manifested some portion of the power that had once belonged to the Titans. Pythor, the Lord of Battle, took command of the centurions of Myrtos, and after many gruesome battles, the armies of the native races were broken. When the final spear had been thrust into the heart of the Gigan king, the 5 gods fell into a torpor, apparently to recover their strength. The city, it seemed, was safe. But Sidon and Lutheria swore vengeance. The mountains shook, the seas boiled with rage, and spine-chilling nightmares ascended upon the mortal armies. Such was the anger of the Titans that their retaliation threatened to sunder the very foundations of Thalia. In the end, Myrtos, the goddess of dawn, sacrificed herself and descended once more to the heavens in order to rescue her beloved city from destruction. The Oath of Peace. Having lost their mounts, the Dragonlords commissioned a fleet of warships and took to the seas. The greatest of these ships was called the Ultros, captained by one Estor Archenlander. He is said to have sailed into the very depths of the underworld, where Lutheria sleeps upon her diamond throne. The other Dragonlords are said to have ascended Thraxus, the Tower of Sidon, where the Lord of Storms watches all. Many songs are sung of the trials and troubles of the Dragonlords, but few can say what actually transpired during their final journey into the perils of the Forgotten Sea. The priests of Myrtos watched for signs of the impending apocalypse. On the night of the winter solstice, when Thalia's doom seemed near, the boiling seas suddenly calmed, and the nightmares ended. Some days later, a black ship sailed into the harbor of Myrtos, carrying the bodies of many of the Dragonlords. The ship was captained by Daemon, a powerful wizard who had served the Dragonlords during the First War. He was mortally wounded, but he uttered not a single word. He delivered 3 precious items to the Temple of the 5, and then vanished in his ship, along with the bodies and arms of his fallen masters. One of the items that Daemon carried was a scroll of parchment, upon which was written the Oath of Peace. This oath was cause for great celebration. Sidon and Lutheria had sworn not to take vengeance upon the mortals of Thalia for a period of 500 years, provided that daily sacrifices to the Titans should resume, and that their temples should be maintained and honored. The present day. The Oath of Peace has prevailed for 500 years, and throughout this age, the mortals of Thalia have flourished. The city of Myrtos grew into a great metropolis, and it has been protected by the twin colossi, beacons of civilization on the shores of a dark frontier. More settlers came from beyond the Forgotten Sea, and the ranks of humans, dwarves, and elves grew. The remaining Dragonlords became kings and established dynasties to rule over the new cities that were founded across the land. As the worship of the Five spread, so also did their power over the land and oceans grow, until every village boasted shrines to Vulcan and Pythor, and the dominion of Sidon and Lutheria was nearly forgotten. The five gods loved their people and made sure to walk amongst them whenever they could. While 5 centuries may seem like an eternity, the time now grows near where the period of peace must finally come to an end. The Oracle's Prophecy. With the imminent end of the Oath of Peace, the Oracle has prophesied the doom of Thalia, the death of the gods, the destruction of the sacred tree, and the total annihilation of all mortal races. Players in this campaign will take on the role of a group of heroes who have been summoned to the Temple of the Oracle in an attempt to avert this catastrophe.